Today, we're doing a two-round 2026 NFL mock draft post-trade deadline. Let's get right into this. If you guys have not already seen, I have a full video breaking down every single trade, a draft grade, compensation updates, and everything. Feel free to check that out. It's a short video if you guys want to check it out, but we're still going to discuss it in this. There's going to be no trades in this mock draft, but we're going to be doing one with trades later this week, so stay tuned for that. But number one overall, we have the New Orleans Saints, and the question is, do they go QB or not? And I'm going to end up rolling the dice and saying they do. It just looks like, second round picks don't necessarily hold the same value at quarterback. Historically, they have not panned out very well. And right now, it at least doesn't look like that's going to be the case where Shuck proves himself worth being that number or being able to curve the excitement of a number one overall pick at quarterback. So we're going to go Fernando Mendoza here, quarterback out of Indiana. I do want to end up tossing in one extra quarterback because there's a good group of guys here at the top. And, we'll see who ends up returning. Somebody who I end up having now as a top 5 quarterback in the class is Darian Menza, quarterback from Duke. He has taken a huge step forward this year. So I just want to throw that out there for you guys to keep an eye on. We'll end up actually including him in this because I think that's fair. I think especially with a lot of guys, if they choose to return, sometimes it's just not wise to continue returning. And so we're going to end up tossing him in this. But regardless, Fernando Mendoza, my QB1 of this draft. I ended up having him as QB3 coming into the year. Sellers ended up having a regression step and just the offensive line. The whole entire situation is garbage for him. My QB2, Arch Manning, hopefully coming into the year, has not necessarily proved to be worth that. Unfortunately, the sample size was too small. And then, of course, we have Fernando Mendoza. So good to see that Mendoza take another step going from Cal to IU. I still think that I want to see a little bit more productive games from him. Recently, they've been 200-yard games. Granted, they've been killing their opponents, but I just still want to see a little bit more, especially after in the middle of the season with Iowa and Oregon. There's some pretty sloppy games in there, but Fernando Mendoza is still a very solid quarterback. Do I think he's going to be an elite quarterback? I don't really know. I don't know if the ceiling's there for him to be an elite quarterback, but at the same time, I do think he's going to be a notable upgrade over what the Saints have currently, and that's a huge win. As at number 2, we have the Tennessee Titans, and again, there's no trades in this. We're going to do a trades mock draft, but I just think the best thing you can do is probably go after Ruben Bain. Now, you could end up trying to play the long game here and say that there's going to be some good edge rushers there at the beginning of round 2, and there absolutely is going to be. But the question is, do you want to roll the dice on a Zion Young, and then get a wide receiver here at 2? When we're here at 2, I just feel like you have to go after a higher value position or a higher value player, and that's Ruben Bain. Now, I got to see Ruben Bain in person, very up close in person this past week at SMU. I was able to be on the field. Thank you to SMU Media for allowing me to have season credentials this year and be able to experience that game up close and personal. But Ruben did not pop the way I expected. I was hoping for him to pass the eye test a little bit more. Certain players do, like CC Maui-Goa did. There's just certain guys, when you watch them, it just clicks to you. Ruben didn't have that same pop to him necessarily, but that doesn't, again, I don't have enough time watching in person to be able to justify whether I think the eye test is really that important compared to obviously the statistics and then the game tape. But we're going to go Ruben Bain here still. I just wanted to throw that out there because a lot of you guys were asking me how the game was, what my thoughts were about it, and I haven't really had the opportunity to discuss it here on the show too much. I did have the stock report video where I go over the best and worst players of each week, but I just ended up, highlighting a little bit of Ahmad Moses and essentially Kevin Jennings, and that's it. But number 3, we have the New York Jets, and a lot of picks in this episode, 3, 32, 35, and 46. You guys, again, I ended up talking about the trades in the video that I dropped literally an hour ago. So feel free to go check that one out for my in-depth opinion on it. But basically, you guys gave up a lot of draft capital. I also think, or not draft capital, you guys acquired a lot of draft capital. You gave up a lot of talent, and it's a big risk. But at the same time, you guys are, I think, doing something very ethical, especially with Quinn and Williams, which is, you understand the situation you're in, time to rebuild. And with Quinnen, I think you guys would end up being competitive by the end of his prime. And I think it's a very ethical thing to send Quinn into a spot where he can try to compete or be around players who are also in their prime, respectively. So I think it was a good ethical move for you guys in that regard. Sauce, I think just the price was too good. So, it is what it is. But if you're sitting here at number three, um, deep down in my heart, I want to go after like not doing a quarterback and go quarterback in 2027, but I'm not going to do that. Dante Moore's here. I feel like it's just the logical option. He has a good solid mobility platform, but he's not a super like run first quarterback. Has good arm strength, but is not crazy to where he's a gunslinger. It's a very balanced quarterback, and I think he'd end up working very well, especially with his deep ball with AD Mitchell. Maybe we can unlock some more with him. And then in the short range with Garrett Wilson, of course, Garrett can attack every level of the field. But I am just saying, the terms of what I'm looking for the Jets, Dante Moore would absolutely have a field day. And a top tier offensive line, if Brees Hall is there on the tag, like you're just going to be able to have a very, very successful rookie campaign with the high floor yet still high ceiling quarterback here in Dante Moore. At number 4, we have the Miami Dolphins, who did not get very much done on trade day, on fire sale day, but you guys ended up basically saying, we're going to be willing to trade Jalen Waddle. You got to pay the price to make us willing to move him. And no one paid the price. Apparently it was supposed to be a 1 plus something else. And that's very expensive for like, especially a wide receiver like Waddle that, right now he's not necessarily, before Tyreek Hill's injury, he was kind of the bona factor too. So I'm going to say wide receivers 100% on the table. You think about Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson, you end up having that dynamic duo. Talent is very, very important, especially after the catch. So maybe you can talk even about a Mekhi Lemon. Casey Concepcion to me is like the best thing for this offense, if you guys are going to be doing that. But the problem is you're not going to get somebody at 36. And the areas that you need improvement on are the quarterback position, wide receiver, offensive line, but you're not going to draft offensive line here at 4, in my opinion. And then defensive back. I'm open to Mansour Delane. I love him a lot. I've taken him before, but I do think that wide receiver is going to be very, very important for this team going forward. And, again, there's not really much that you can do when we don't have trades in these. And that's why I like doing both a trades and a no trades mock. Because sometimes I could always force a trade if I don't like a spot, but this forces us to think critically. Like, what are we going to be wanting to do at 36? And the wide receiver market very well might dry up because the Jets are still going to be open to having a third wide receiver in that room because AD Mitchell still hasn't proven anything as a 2. So there's just a lot of variables here that make me very uncomfortable with where the Dolphins are sitting wide receiver wise in round number 2. So I'm going to go after wide receiver here. Also, on top of all of this, wide receivers are translating to the NFL now more than ever in the quickest fashion. So if you want to help out your team, go after the best players. And, the ones that translate the fastest are these wide receivers out of college. And I think Jordan Tyson is the next real deal. As long as health doesn't become a concern, which none of his injuries have had any sort of connection, then you guys are going to get yourselves an absolute superstar here. At number 5, we have the New York Giants, and a lot of good routes that you can go for the Giants here. I think offensive line's overrated. I like Illuminor. I love your offensive line coach. I don't think that's a huge priority. I think the areas we need to look for is if Cordell Flott wants to leave, I'm pretty sure it's a contract year for him. Mansour Delane all day, every day. I also think that you could still end up having both, but if you end up paying Flott, you're not really going to want to put either Delane or him to corner 3. Also, with the nickel being filled up by Andrew Phillips, it is pretty tough with Mansour Delane possibly having a shorter arm length for him to be overly effective on the Giants, or at least be a guaranteed success, because if he has some struggles, you don't really have that secondary position to put him. However, there's another player that's, ranked lower than maybe he should be. And even on my board, he's ranked lower than he should be. But someone who should be in the top 5 consideration right now based on how he's playing, it's Carnell Tate. I mean, this guy has taken his game to a completely different level this year. He's a completely different player than he was coming into the year. The route running, just the nuances of the game. And then on top of that, I mean, he's been a highly targeted player, even in contested catch situations, and he's still coming away with a ludicrously high contested catch rate, which for those of you guys who are not like necessarily aware of what like a good contested catch rate, I think anything 50% and above is amazing. And then you're starting to talk about 60% is wild, 70% insane. You don't see 90% apart from players who don't get targeted. Cardinal Tate gets targeted all the time. And he's, again, this is also from a program that just produced a Meko Ibuka, Marvin Harrison Jr. Marvin Harrison finally ending up breaking out 7 catch game. Woot woot. But I mean, we're just seeing consistent production from all the Ohio State wide receivers, JSN, Garrett Wilson. You could argue that in the top 15, there is like 4 or 5 that are Ohio State. I mean, you could argue Chris Olave in there too. And that's ridiculous. It's all from the same program, and it's pretty much been an unbroken chain. And with Carnell Tate's ascension, I don't like scouting the helmet, but you see programs, you see how they're trained. I don't see any difference with Carnell Tate. I think he can step into the NFL right away. And with Malik Neighbors coming back from injury, and I mean, especially, I mean, you still do need a wide receiver too, regardless, but especially with Malik coming back from injury, this allows the focus not to solely be on Malik to end up producing. And I think that's great. At number 6 for the Cleveland Browns, this is going to be a quick and easy one. We're going to go the quarterback route. Got to be Ty Simpson. I mean, I love Darian Mensa, but right now there's pretty much a top 3. And again, I actually have Ty Simpson as my QB4 now. I have Mensa at 3, if I'm not mistaken. And again, Mensa is super duper, like, there's a big percentage chance he goes back to school. I'm pretty sure he's a redshirt sophomore. But Ty Simpson is going to be the guy I go with. He fits what's been going right, technically, or in terms of the style of quarterback, the archetype of quarterback that has had some sort of success in Cleveland. It is kind of more so the pocket passers. And then if Stefanski is somehow, some way still there, he likes those type of quarterbacks as well, which Tyson's not necessarily a pocket quarterback. He has mobility, but the play style he has is a little bit similar to Brock Purdy, which is my comp for him. I think he's a good quarterback. Am I fully sold on him? No. But at the same time, I do think that it's very realistic that he ends up going in this range. At number 7, we got the Las Vegas Raiders. And just going to be honest, this is another team where I would absolutely be open to Darian Menza. Menza is somebody, like, I didn't expect this ever. Like, I've seen Menza. I studied him at Tulane. I was not fully sold on him. I ended up watching his past 2 weeks versus Georgia Tech and Clemson, and he's a real deal. But let's evaluate other options. I like to blend my board with realism, and I think he's definitely someone who's going to be a little bit more of a late day 1 target than in the top 10. Now, he did just end up putting up, I think, over 300 yards and 4 touchdowns versus Clemson, but simultaneously, I also did not necessarily get, well, I'm about to like cross my own thought here. I did end up seeing quite a few slip ups from him. He had 3 turnover-worthy plays. I agree. There were 3 plays that definitely should have been turnovers. I think one of them was a miscommunication, but we're going to throw the curveball here. I think the Vegas Raiders need a quarterback desperately. And Sellers, I think, absolutely needs to go back to school. Mateer needs to go back to school. And so you're leaving yourself with Mayava, Nussmeier, Levitt's hurt, so he's probably going to go back. Aller, and then Menza. Like, there's just not much left in this class. You can also toss in Klubnik there, but we're not talking about that in general. I'm talking about this for the rest of the class. But Menza has been phenomenal. I mean, again, first off, look at the pressure or look at the grades. My only issue with Menza is that there's been some portions of games where he does end up panicking a little bit. But for me, one of my favorite things I saw about him, there was this one play where there's one of the slot wide receiver did a hitch between the linebacker and the corner. Menza initially, because they ran the play twice, initially ended up staring down the wide receiver and throwing it to him was a near pick. Both the corner as well as the linebacker were within interception range. But the second time they ran it, because they ran the exact same play, he actually looked off the linebacker by staring downfield and then pulled his eyes to the wide receiver and let it rip. His timing is really solid for someone who is so young. He is a redshirt sophomore. This is a guy who has legitimate super ceiling potential. And I don't like saying that very often. And I wasn't a huge supporter of Menza coming into the year. It's a name you guys need to watch. I mean, he is awesome. Where do I have Menzo right now? Menza's right now at 43 on my board, and he's continuing to get higher and higher. If he adds 10 pounds to his frame, it's easy. I mean, it's easy that I should be considering him in this range. And I just don't value quarterbacks like that. It's just at the same time, I mean, I think that this class is extremely top heavy in the quarterback room. There's a lot of really good talent that you could try to snipe some value down the board, like you could try to get something out of Drew Aller. But we're seeing that these day two, day three quarterbacks, unless they're put and molded in the right situation, are not working out. So if you want to do it right, do it right. Menza's the wild card here, but number 8, we got the Arizona Cardinals. We're gonna go Spencer Fano. Tackle is needed. I don't know what the hell's going on with Kyler. He's not even named the starter, but we're going to end up going Spencer Fano here. Right tackle is a big need. I'm going to support it, and then we're going to go in a very deep linebacker class for something there in round 2. Number 9, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. Weird situation. Didn't get rid of Trey Hendrickson, but at the same time, I believe you guys will be able to get a comp pick if he ends up signing somewhere else. It is what it is. The only issue with the edge class is that when you look at historically what your organization values, it's RAS and then it's size. There's not really guys who have any sort of arm length here. Like TJ Parker, I think will be sub 33. Keldrick Falk will not be a RAS guy. David Bailey's 250, not size. It doesn't meet the size threshold. Same thing with Cassius Howell, Romello Height. LT Overton is kind of a D tackle, will not meet the RAS criteria. R. Mason Thomas, 250. Quincy Rhodes is the first one, but he's not worth the number 9 pick. All that to say, that's why you don't look at edge for this team. And it's down to Caleb Downs and then Mansour Delane. Those are the 2 players you need to focus on here because they're the 2 best. Arvell Reese is as well, but I don't think you guys are going to be running in for another linebacker. You just got rid of one. But I do think just going after best player available is important. And Caleb Downs, to me, he's just been the most consistent player since the moment he stepped on the field in college. And I don't see that changing in the NFL. I think getting a reliable defensive back piece is very, very crucial. If you want to go after the corner route, I think that's a very wise move. But at the same time, you can't go wrong. So it's more so like, which one do you prefer? And it's hard to just say, we're going to pass on Caleb Downs. At number 10 for the Washington Commanders, a lot of good picks. I mean, you can't really go wrong, but I'm going to go Arvell Reese here. I think Dan Quinn is a brilliant defensive mind. And the whole entire reason y'all were competitive beforehand is because that team was awkwardly elevated, A, by a rookie quarterback that, was extremely dynamic, able to translate very quickly, but B, a defensive coach who can elevate the talent around him. Why not go after Arvell Reese? You need an edge rusher. Arvell could absolutely be that. You also I need to change that because I have Arvell as a linebacker on my board. He needs to be a linebacker / edge. But, I mean, you need an edge and you probably need a linebacker as well. And you get to put a phenomenal high ceiling player with a phenomenal high IQ coach. Just call it there. Get happy. Number 11, we got the Baltimore Ravens. And you guys end up trading for Draymond Jones, trying to bolster up a little bit of the defensive front. And that shows to me that at least you value that defensive front a little bit. I love Peter Woods, again, with Darian Mensah being the curveball in the top 10. We're going to be in a unique situation where we can end up going after Peter Woods and fortifying that defensive front a little bit. At number 12, we have the Los Angeles Rams, and this is a quick and easy one. When Mansour Delane's here, you pick up the phone and you end up calling that card in and you end up running up to the podium. He is an unbelievably talented corner who took a massive step up this year. I mean, he's just been so damn good. I mean, 100 yards on the entire season as the number 1 corner going up against the number 1 wide receiver the whole year. Multiple pass deflections. Look at that. 9 forced incompletions, 1 interception. This guy's a dog. He's my corner 1 coming into the year, and nothing's changing with that. At number 13 for the Houston Texans, Jeremiah Love would be kind of cute, kind of fun, but at the same time, I don't believe that his skill set really complements Woody Marks at all. And Woody's been a really solid player. You traded up for him as well last year. I think it'd be disingenuous to try to say, oh, we're going to just go and negate any sort of chance of Woody Marks having a bigger role in this offense. However, I'm going to go for a player that I got to see in person. Somebody who I think absolutely passes the eye test. And it's CC Francis Mauigoa. So Francis is someone who I don't fully believe in as a tackle, but I also don't I don't not believe in him as a tackle. I think he would end up being a top 40 player for me if he had to stick a tackle. I think one of my biggest issues with him, and it's just been something that's very unique, because Francis is an amazing mover, super fluid. He cannot handle space to the inside. When he ends up drifting too far and so like a defender makes an inside move, he has such a hard time changing directions to go back the other way. But you'll see if he starts out in a neutral position and he has to go that way, it's no problem for him. I don't understand why that's the case. I also know that, like, I mean, his arms are short. I mean, I think they're in the 32-inch range. Does that disqualify him from being a good tackle? No, but it does make it more difficult. But ultimately, the goal here is get the best offensive lineman. And to me, when I saw Francis Mauigoa, it clicked to me that I'm like, this guy, I'm going to put my bet on him. He's boosted up my board back to 13th overall. I do think he's more of a guard than a tackle, but I don't think this would be I think it would be still a wise investment if you think of him solely as a tackle, because it's a bad tackle class. And Francis Mauigoa absolutely can end up being a solid bookend tackle there to Ariante Ursary. At number 14, we have the Dallas Cowboys, and a lot of moves in the recent history, whether it was Micah Parsons, obviously now Quinnen Williams as well, like just either shipping out, bringing in Logan Wilson as well. I think Logan, I mean, such a cheap price for somebody who used to be a really, really good linebacker, cannot hurt. And then you bring in Quinnen Williams, who is a fantastic defensive interior. Again, go watch my video that I just posted about all the trades. I broke all of them down. But, I think that's a really good move for you guys. Defensive interior, no longer a need. It's kind of why I like the snipe on day 2, though. But, it is what it is. No Arvell Reese for us to snipe here, as much as I would love for that to have been an option. Cornerback, if we ended up having Mansour, would have been a choice. Avion Terrell is very, very possible, but it is somebody that's like, there's height and size limitations with him. It's a little bit worrisome. Like, wide receiver at this point isn't a bad idea. It really isn't. But the Cowboys, I believe, also were looking at edge talent. And I will say, like, TJ Parker, his only issue is IQ. I said this coming into the year, which is why I was lower on TJ. And then this past week, I ended up studying Darian Menzel. I was talking about this earlier. And there was a particular play, because Menz is not the best athlete on planet Earth. He's not a bad athlete, but it's like you're not talking about Lenore Sellers here. TJ Parker collapsed the pocket, and I love that. I mean, I love an edge rusher that can push a lineman back, if not on his ass. He can do that. But he just let Menzo run by him. And I'm like, dude, please know where the ball is. Like, please know where the ball is. But that is kind of worth it if you're going to test this out for the Cowboys. You could try to wait till round 2, but I just don't think if you have to stick and pick, there's a much better value option here, unless George Pickens elects to leave, which then wide receiver it is 100% of the time. We're going to go TJ Parker here. We're going to still show some love for him. He's always had the foundation mechanically, like he has the moves in his bag. And it's just been a lot more of the timing and understanding what to do and when, which I think TJ Parker has taken a big step forward this year in doing. At number 15 for the Minnesota Vikings, corner is usually the way that I like to rock. Like, that's probably the way I would go. Jeremiah Love makes me feel very comfortable with the idea of taking like an upgrade at running back. I just don't think the running back situation is really set in stone. Second or third round, I'd really love to see interior offensive line, especially at the center position, targeted. Deep down, I keep scrolling, hoping to see Trev put my boy, why did I forget, Lyndon Cooper in there. I love Lyndon Cooper. I mean, you guys know this. He's a big my guy. But center's a big issue for the Vikings. Right tackle, technically, as well, for the long haul. But, I mean, ultimately, what it comes down to is this team needs defensive back. So it's like corner, safety. And I don't have Jermod McCoy coming out in this class. He's a true junior who literally has not played a snap this year. Doesn't make sense. You can get paid, you can get healthy, and then you can come out with a red hot year. You got Abney. I don't think Abney's fast enough in order to make this team, like, in order to be justifiably on this squad with the cornerback room that you guys have. Like, you have to make it realistic. And as much as I would love to find a corner who is going to run in the low 4.4s, who has all the traits in the world, Like, I would love that for the Vikings at 15. There's just not one in this class that has it. So it's between Colton Hood and Avian Terrell. And I think Avian Terrell is just a better fit. Like, he is somebody, even when he ends up allowing yards and he ended up allowing a touchdown this past week as well, he was an absolute dog. I ended up mentioning this earlier when talking about Darian Mensa. There was a play where he ended up having, he ended up basically staring down a hitch route to a slot on a hitch. And Avion Terrell basically bailed on his assignment in order to make the pass breakup. And it was beautiful. So we're going to go after Avian Terrell here. He's my number 21 player on my board right now. Kenyon Sadiq's going to be falling. There's players who are rising up. So, we're testing out the waters on that. But I do think there are some interior offensive linemen that are showing massive strides right now, or tackles that I think should play guard. At 16 for the Carolina Panthers, wide receiver is an underrated need. Edge rushers on the board. Like, defensive interior, some people like the idea of going after one of those. But, linebacker is available here. You can go Sonny Styles. I just don't think at 16 it's worth it, especially when I have some doubts about Sonny. Like, this team needs to get a hit, in my opinion. Corner is very possible. Colton Hood's an underrated player here. 7 incompletions forced on the year, an interception. Like, he is somebody that has gone up against a gauntlet of teams like Georgia. Mississippi State always has really good receivers. Same thing with Arkansas, Bama, obviously. Even Kentucky, they have guys like Kendrick Law. And then, Oklahoma as well. He's gone up against a gauntlet and still is not even allowed 200 yards on the year. So somebody who I think definitely could be an underrated target for the Panthers. But I do think I might opt back for the edge room. And David Bailey, some people are going to be like, why are you not going to be drafting him? Probably at all today, or maybe at least later into round 2. Go check out he's like dealing with some criminal stuff right now because he assaulted and battered a photographer. So feel free to go check that out. There's videos of it. It's not just hearsay or anything like that. But a player that I really want to show some love to is Clev Lubin, somebody who I'll be able to see in 18 days. He ended up coming to SMU. So we'll be able to stand up close in person with Clev and see how that ends up going. Super excited for him. But, this guy's been absolutely dominant all year long. I don't really care about a 7% run stop rate. It's still very, very good. We're going to go after him because, first off, Louisville, Kentucky, pretty damn close. You're going to have a lot of eyes on. But secondly, 250 pounds, someone who can play both the run as well as the pass, and just being a consistent threat there next to Nick Scorton is going to be a super crucial aspect of having 3 young, talented edge rushers. It's a very important thing to have in the game today. At 17 for the Chiefs, quick and easy one. We're going to go Jeremiah Love. Kenyon Sadiq I normally like to go for, but I will say he's been extremely unproductive this year, and it is a little disingenuous to go solely off of traits. If we're sticking and picking at 17, I think Jeremiah Love has to be the option. This is a team that was trying to trade for Breece Hall, had a 4th-round pick on the table, and did not end up being able to do that. But Jeremiah Love would end up being essentially in that role. We'll see if Rashard Smith can take a bigger role, but I do think Jeremiah Love would be the choice there. At number 18 for the Chicago Bears, guys ended up trading for Joe Tryon Shoyinka. You guys ended up trying to acquire an edge as well with Trey Hendrickson. And so, not Trey Hendrickson, Jermaine Johnson, which Jermaine, I will say, Shoyinka is in that 263 range, and there's not many guys who are built like that in this class. I would end up looking at Zion Young is probably the closest option, and I'm not comfortable taking him here at 18. So what are some other options that we can do? So wide receiver, no. Running back, no. Otherwise, Jeremiah Love would have been great. Tight end, no. I do think left tackle's on the board. Now, Ozzie Trapilo, I do know that you guys there's a cult following for Ozzie, and I loved Ozzie. He was my tackle 1 last year, right tackle 1. But it's just to be fair, I had Josh Simmons my tackle 1. But right tackle 1 was Ozzie Trapilo. I just don't know if I have the faith in him like that. Corner, not going to take one here. Safety, not worth it. And then, I guess we do got to go edge, right? If you're going to stick and pick, I guess you have to target somebody here. And the question is, who is it going to be worth it? Now, you guys see Malachi Lawrence there. I love my Pookie Bear Lawrence. He's been ridiculously good this year. You look at just the pressure rate, the pass rush win rate. The true pass rush win rate is good, is like amazing as well. Somebody who's going to be a great threat. And if you look at the stats, it says 6'4", 250. Scouts this summer ended up measuring him in at 6'5" or 6'4", 263 pounds with 35-inch arms. I will say he fits the Bears profile. But I actually might go Zion Young here. He's in the perfect realm. I think if you can't move back, this is a dark horse pick here, but it's also someone, again, top tier run stop rate and pass rush win rate. I would try to trade back if I can, but there's just not a better option here. We're going to go Zion Young, edge rusher out of Missouri. At 19 for the Cleveland Browns, you know, I think if your first pick's Ty Simpson, you got to go after the best of the best, and that's going to be Mekhi Lemon here. Separator, can attack all three levels of the field. Just a damn good player. Just lock it in. At number 20 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, quarterback's available here with Lenore Sellers, but I'm going to say he returns to school for this one. I just don't see him coming out. Every single person on planet Earth is saying, please transfer schools. So I'm going to do that. Same thing, obviously, Levitt, Mateer. So I just don't think there's a quarterback worth a first. I'm not sold on Brendan Sorsby. He has some crazy high-tier throws, and I think actually wouldn't be a bad fit for the Steelers. But at number 20, it's just reaching. It's just forcing stuff, and I don't like that. I don't like forcing things. It doesn't need to happen. We're not going to have it happen. Instead, I'm going to look at Denzel Boston, Casey, Concepcion, Chris Bell as well. I mean, you can't really go wrong here. All these players have various values, but Chris Bell, I think, would end up overlapping with DK a little bit. Technically, you say the same with Boston, but I like the fact that Boston's a better route runner in terms of like, and not necessarily known as route runner after the catch like Chris Bell. Like Boston feels more like a true X. Concepcion has the return ability. Like he's just a nifty receiver. Sucks to see the drop starting to pop up again, but we're going to go Denzel Boston, wide receiver out of Washington, my number 22 player on my board. At 21 for the Detroit Lions, underrated position to target is left tackle here. You got Caden Proctor and Trevor Gooseby. I think those two need to be seriously considered here. On top of that, I mean, technically, you could end up looking at a weapon if you really want to. I don't think that's going to be on the menu. Interior offensive line, it's a center. Not going to value it here. Corner, it's possible. Colton Hood actually kind of matches what I would expect for the Lions to both love and actually utilize. Edge rusher, a lot of very good ones, but I'm going to opt back for in a very weak tackle class with the Decker having a very uncertain future for them to look at tackle. And the question is it Proctor, who he just feels like a perfect fit for the Lions, but Gooseby, I think, is probably a better tackle. And I'm going to go after the better player. I think that's a dark horse pick to go above Caden Proctor, but I do think Gooseby's taken a notable step forward, and I'm going to give him the nod over the mountain himself in Caden Proctor. At 22 for the Los Angeles Chargers, interior offensive line, probably the move. You guys traded for Trevor Penning today. And so it shows that you guys see that there should be something going on in the offensive line. I'm going to go on the interior of the offensive line because I think that's very important. You're going to have both of your tackles come back from injury. So obviously you should not be trying to upgrade at tackle. But I'm going to look at Emmanuel Pregdon here. You see him at 11 on my board. And I know this is a summer grade, by the way. I know Trev has this as a summer grade because I know for a fact that a lot of people that I respect, that I love, including Trev, they're all raving about Pregnon. I will say this. I don't believe in this gap grade versus zone grade. I think it's flipped. I think he's a lot better as a gap guard, but I don't think that's a bad thing. And he's a really good athlete, unbelievably powerful. I think he's the most underrated player in the entire country. And I love Malachi Lawrence, but there is nobody who is more underrated than Emmanuel Pregnon at this moment. And this team needs interior offensive line help. He's 320 pounds, 6'5". He has, I think, near 34-inch arms. I know it's confirmed. It's above 33 and a half. Like, this guy could play tackle in a pinch as well, which, again, added value there. At 23 for the San Francisco 49ers, I'm running this one to the podium, and it's a really unique one. I haven't been able to do this. We're going Kenyon Sadiq, tight end out of Oregon. Sometimes you just got to go after best player available. This player can block. He's 245, but he can block his ass off. He's just had a really weird year with new quarterback, and I was hoping for him to be more productive, but the flashes are just jaw dropping, and you have to take advantage of that when you can. At 24 for the Dallas Cowboys, first pick, TJ Parker. The defensive line pretty much is set, and I love that. You could talk about Caden Proctor here, but I just think that there's no real upgrade there to be had. Instead, I'm going to potentially look at linebacker here with Sonny Styles or at corner with Colton Hood. And the reason I would look at Hood before I end up looking at Styles is because I like the first off, linebackers don't translate as quickly. And secondly, I think that corner, you do see a drop off before your next pick, which would be in the third round. I think it'd be very smart to trade out of this spot, but we're not doing trades in this episode. So we're going to go Colton Hood here and just kind of solve two big problems with two really good value players. Again, Colton Hood has the zone IQ, but has the physicality as well to work in both coverages. And then, is able to punch the ball out very, very well. Huge fan of that. At 25 for the Bills, it's been a consistent, like, run this to the podium pick, and it still is. For the Cowboys, there's a lot of issues to kind of fix up. For the Bills, when you see Sonny Styles available, you take him. This is a team that has had linebackers translate very well, very quickly. And Sonny Styles is a true Mike linebacker at 6'5", 243. It's just worth the risk of having some of those early stumbles because it'll still be an upgrade over what you had. At 26 for the Seattle Seahawks, again, it's a team where I want Sonny Styles to go to, but you guys end up acquiring Rashid Shaheed for an absolute thievery. And power to you guys for doing that. Now, I think that Emmanuel Pregnon should be your new target here, but edge rusher as well. You could look at a nose tackle. I don't think that there's one that's really earning its keep here. Like Caden McDonald, I love this guy to death. He's a really good player. One of the few who gave Pregnon, because I ended up watching specifically Pregnon versus McDonald. He actually gave some fits to Pregnon. And Caden is somebody where if you take him at the late first, I'm not blaming you. We might do it. Boundary corner, linebacker, edge rusher, like those are the positions that I also want to target. Again, with David Bailey, I have a big red flag with him having that criminal flare up. Him literally being videotaped, assaulting the guy. Not a big fan of that. And again, do your own research. It's all out there. So, again, I don't really care what the reasoning was for why Bailey did it, even though the reasoning I've seen is even worse than like if something actually bad happened. But again, do your own research. I'm out on Bailey for the time being, is what it is. But I mean, there's some good edge rushers in here for sure. Again, I'm a big Malachi Lawrence guy, but I do want someone who's a bit more flexible in terms of being more of an outside linebacker as well from time to time. Like Mateo is really fun in that aspect because even though he's big, he also has that flexibility. Quincy Rhodes has some flexibility as well. They drop him into coverage randomly, but I just think that this class has enough value on day 2 to feel comfortable with that. Actually, I'm going to go after offensive line here, because I love Caleb Lamu, and I think he is a really, really good player as a guard and as a tackle, but I think the tackle part is an upside aspect. I think the guard role, you got to do what you got to do. And also, the thing is, this is also taking Caleb Lamu away from the Rams, so we're going to take him, move him to right guard, call it a day. For the Rams at 27, took Mansour Delane there in the first round. And here at number 27, could go after the quarterback. I already said I'm having Lenoris return to school. It's my easy go-to option for the Rams, and I don't want to do that. It doesn't make it fun if you guys see the same exact mock draft every single week. And, I don't think that's fair, especially when everyone's saying this guy's going back to school, for me to say, hey, screw you, I'm having him come out in this. Instead, I do think the Rams might end up taking the developmental track with Caden Proctor and move him to right tackle and see what happens. Now, you could also technically move Austin Jackson not Austin Jackson. I'm tripping. Iowa tackle of 2. I keep wanting to say Austin Jackson. I'm thinking of right tackles that used to not be good. Alaric Jackson. I would end up possibly doing that. Caleb Tiernan's a good option, though. I mean, I will say he doesn't match the measurables, but he is really good. Like a very, very good offensive lineman. I have him as my number 3 player in the class. I'm a little crazy about that, but he's an extremely polished player. He's a good athlete, and I mean, he's strong too. He handles like size differentials very well, but Proctor has the bigger ceiling. Like that's kind of like the debate that you need to have. Mm, this is a tough one. It's actually a really tough one, but you do have a tall quarterback, so I don't really mind Tiernan in case he has to kick into guard. Same thing with Proctor. I mean, I think they're both the exact same height at like 6'7" to 6'8". Feel free to let me know which one you'd prefer. Like, I think you might have to take the upside, but Proctor is like Tiernan's more polished, doesn't have the physical upside. Proctor has this physical upside, but is not polished. I'll go after the polish. We're gonna go Tiernan here at number 27. At number 28 for the Denver Broncos, would have been nice to see Kenyon Sadiq slip to this point. And honestly, if I didn't take him with the Niners, he would. But I mean, at this point, center, again, it's another team with center, but I still am going to go with actually an old but gold pick here. It's Anthony Hill Jr., linebacker out of Texas. He's been red hot as of recent. I mean, versus Mississippi State, I think 9 pressures, 6 defensive stops. Like, he's a very unique player, right? Not many players have a 6'3", 240-pound build, are extremely athletic, and have a lot more room to put on mass. Anthony Hill does. So we're going to go after him and let Vance Joseph go to work. At 29 for the Buccaneers, again, Anthony Hill would have been my dream selection for them. We are in an interesting spot where I honestly might just go after Vega to play guard at this point. One of the best pass blocking guards that I've seen. But the Buccaneers guards have a little bit more maneuverability. Chase Bazontis actually would be a much better option. And I'm obviously not saying right now, but I'm just saying, like, based on the guys who are right here on the interior offensive line list, I think that'd be a pretty good target for y'all. So let's look at other positions. Like edge in general. Keldrick Falk doesn't fit for me. David Bailey has the personal concerns with him assaulting that dude. And then Cassius House, sub 31-inch arms, which is ridiculous. It's not going to go in the first round. Coaches aren't going to like it. Romello Heights, a DPR, not going to happen in the first. LT Overton's a little bit too much of a quasi interior defensive lineman. And then you got R. Mason Thomas. Love R. Mason Thomas. I've taken him to y'all before. Might do it again. But it's a weird spot. Like, this is just a weird, uncomfortable spot. Where on earth actually is Wesley Williams? I want to give him a shout out because he is awesome. Because I see Vincent Anthony in here, his teammate, and Wesley's better than Vincent by a good margin. That's somebody that I would consider for the Bucs, but I would say that you probably want some type of coverage capabilities. So it's a weird spot. I don't want to waste too much time on this. I'm actually just going to go after the highest ceiling player who also, again, has that ability to, drop into coverage from time to time. We're going to go after Mateo Uiagalelei, edge rusher out of Oregon. At number 30 for the New England Patriots, a lot of routes that you can go. I like wide receiver still. I'm an underrated wide receiver guy. That's just my thing. But I respect it. Not many people really like that route. I would say edge rusher still is possible for this team, but again, you're just starting to justify some edges that, at 62, are there going to be good ones there? I don't know, because I've already taken some very, very good ones. I'd get crucified if I took Malachi Lawrence round 1. I still want to. But Keldrick Falk just feels too much like an interior defensive lineman to me and does not fit the build of edge rusher you guys go for. I would try to trade back and take R. Mason Thomas, based on the current situation. Linebacker, I don't think the value is here. Defensive interior, good. Honestly, Dylan Thieneman's the option here. AJ Halsey's graded, by the way. People who have not already checked out the Patreon, please go and do so. It's a great way of supporting me, but on top of that, and more importantly, it's where I have all these players graded. My board is below my face. I have over 290 guys there. I keep some tracking guys to move it over to the 2027 big board, but I've been adding more and more players there, like AJ Halsey as an official grade as a top 100 player. But you also talk about Keon Saab in the mix. But Dylan Thieneman, somebody outside of him being just ran over on the goal line, is someone who I really, really love. And I think this team can continue to develop their defensive backcourt with Dylan Thieneman there. Greg Woodson, I'm going to call this one a win. At number 31 for the Philadelphia Eagles, it depends if they end up keeping Jalen Phillips as an edge for the long haul. Same thing with, you to look at Jair Alexander, it could be a reclamation project. I don't really like the speed, of the corners available. Abney just doesn't have the athletic foundation for the Eagles. And I love Keith Abney. He's just not athletic enough to be the boundary corner based on the traits that you guys continuously target. Tight end's not good enough. So I'm looking at the tackles. And at this point, you got to send Caden Proctor to stout you. So we're going to go Caden Proctor here, tackle out of Alabama. Send him to stout you, see if we can get another year or two out of Lane. If not, then we could try to see if Cam Williams can do it, and then Caden Proctor can play guard. Regardless, we're going to see Caden Proctor on the Eagles. 32, first, I believe, traded pick that we're going to deal with. We have the New York Jets again. First pick was Dante Moore. And at this pick at 32, I'm starting to just think, why not just double down and go Casey Concepcion at this point? Like, defensive interior with Quinnen Williams gone is absolutely a target as well. Am I going to regret passing on wide receiver at 32? Yes, there are two teams lurking right behind me that are going to be going for a wide receiver. I don't want to do that. I don't want to miss out. Are there two teams going to go defensive interior behind me? They could, but I do think I'd be in a better spot that way. I'm going to go after, Chris Bell's here too. Well, both these teams would probably go after wide receiver. Chris Bell actually brings something that AD Mitchell and AD Mitchell as well as Garrett Wilson don't bring. So we're going to go Chris Bell here, wide receiver out of Louisville. He can go as high as top 10, but he's also somebody, again, it's with so many wide receivers, it just depends on what order they go. I love Chris Bell. Again, my number 16 player on my board. At number 33 for the New Orleans Saints, first pick, Fernando Mendoza. Here at number 33, wide receiver Casey Concepcion is definitely on the board. With Rashid Shaheed gone, I think it's imperative. And it just kind of sucks because I really want to get a wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans. But I don't think I'm going to be able to. So we're going to go Casey Concepcion. Which leaves us, again, Titans sitting here at number 34. Reuben Bain Jr. was our first pick. And it does make me believe that, going forward, we need to start focusing on wide receiver at 3 or at number 2 and end up going after an edge here like Keldrick Falk. I think it's going to be the smartest thing you can do. But cornerback is not good. We still absolutely can go corner here. And you guys like physicality, even though you keep trading it away. We're going to go Keith Abney, cornerback out of Arizona State. I know you got to help out the offense sometimes, but helping out the offense with lower value players doesn't help out the team. At number 35, we're back with the Jets. And honestly, it would have been great to go after Keith Abney for this team, but we're not able to do that. Instead, we're going to go after another defensive player here. We got Dante Moore and Chris Bell. We're going to go Christian Miller to replace Quinnen Williams, someone who also has great athleticism, dominant wins, has a little bit of Quinnen to him. So we're going to go Christian Miller there for the Jets. At number 36 for the Miami Dolphins, first pick, Jordan Tyson. Again, very happy we did that because it's not pretty right now in terms of the wide receiver market. But I will say cornerback would have been my next move. We did kind of see the next corner I feel comfortable with get taken off the board. I do love Davison Igbinosun. It just feels too risky for a team trying to develop their organization right now. So I'm just going to go after someone who's extremely, extremely high floor. And that's going to be Vega Ione. I don't know what happened to him as a run blocker. It really has degraded. I reevaluated him today. It's degraded noticeably from last year, but the pass blocking it's almost like it was opposite day for some reason, but it just happened and it remained the same. Vega ended up becoming one of the best anchored guards I've ever seen. He ended up being one of the most polished interior offensive linemen as well. So I just love what Vega's doing. I think I ended up mentioning for Oregon, I ended up talking about Thieneman, Pregnon going up against Katie McDonald. I take that back. I was mentioning actually Vega. Vega had some trouble in pass pro versus Katie McDonald, but he was still rock solid, one of the best pass blocking guards. And I know it's scary, another guard at the top of the second, but this is a foundational piece that your guys are going to keep, and it's a lot better than what you guys ended up drafting, which is, it sucks to see Savania what he is, but Vega is not the same at all. At number 37 for the Giants, we got Carnell Tate in the first round. And again, I know a lot of you guys would be open to interior offensive line here as well. I'd be very open to it, looking at the options available. I don't know if I'm really sold on anybody being this high outside of Cooper. I love Lenny Cooper, but you guys are not going for a center right now. So yeah, not really a fan. Not really a fan of the options available. I just think at the top of the second, you got to go after someone who's really damn awesome. I don't really think that's available. I love Kobe Baines, but I just don't think it's very realistic. So, take that as it is. But we've gotten a good wide receiver. We got our quarterback. Hopefully, your running back comes back and is doing great. Love Scat, but like corner again, could talk about a corner three because Cordell Flott is up for a contract, but re-sign him. Just re-sign him at this point. But I am looking. You could end up trying to target defensive interior here. It sucks, but you guys could try to free up a little bit more of sexy Dexy. It's honestly tough for this team. It's not very easy. Linebacker is on the board as well. Like, I don't think that you could pass, or like, I don't think you'd be mad if you went CJ Allen here, who's a thumper and just brings the energy. Defensive back wise, you could look at a safety for a more rangy safety like Keon Saab. I wouldn't disagree with that either. Not many bad routes. It's so complicated though. I'm like, Jennings Dunker on the interior of the offensive line would be kind of nice though. He is a right tackle, but I know a lot of you guys are trying to say you want the long-term option at right tackle to be Marcus Bowe, friend of the show, by the way. So feel free to go check out that interview. I like that. Jennings Dunker has insane physicality, and you're pairing him up with one of the best offensive line coaches, in my opinion, in the league. At number 38, Cleveland Browns, Ty Simpson, Mekhi Lemon. Again, I feel open to going after offensive line again, but it is pretty slim pickings at this point. Don't really want to force anything again. I love Kobe Baines. I just don't think he'd be going in this range. So, like looking at other options for this team, Keldrick Falk's available, and it's kind of hard to pass on this with Alex Wright as well as Isaiah McGuire coming up on contracts in the following year. You got to go after guys who can end up replacing them with solid value. Keldrick Falk's great there. At 39 for the Raiders, Keldrick Falk would have been nice. We went Darian Menza in the first round. That's gonna get some people pissed, but that's okay. I love you guys anyways. We got to go after best player available on the defense, and I think Caden McDonald's probably that. Like edge rusher wise, unfortunately, you guys have not gotten what you needed to out of Kuntz. So it's like you are very much open to edge rusher, and there's a lot of very good ones here. At the same time, that also makes it very possible for us to ignore said position and try to go moneyball it down the line. I'm going to do that. We're going to go Caden McDonald here, defensive interior out of Ohio State. Young, dynamic junior. Probably won't come out, but he's having a fantastic year. And again, he's somebody who can give even the best interior offensive lineman in the country fits. And that's something that you really need to have is interior pressure. At 40 for the Arizona Cardinals, first pick, Spencer Fano. Second pick, I mean, you got to get some deep speed, which we could end up going with Chris Brazzell here. Don't mind that. Again, I actually don't really mind Antonio Williams in round 3, Zachariah Branch, Nick Harbor. There's a lot of good options that you can go for deep speed. So I don't think I want to force that here. With CJ Allen on the board, you can get a true Mike linebacker that's a thumper, and you pair him up there, of course, with Spencer Fano, and you have 2 impact players at 2 impact positions. 41 for the Cincinnati Bengals, first pick, Caleb Downs. Second pick, I think you need to look at corner as well as the interior of the offensive line. We were talking about it earlier, though, several times. I just don't like the value here. Caden Green's possible, but So it's going to be edge rusher or corner for me. Again, Jermod McCoy considered returning in this. I mentioned it earlier in this episode, but Quincy Rhodes Jr. is the guy who I continuously take for the Bengals. It makes a lot of sense, but at the same time, you could try to extend, like, you could just try to continue extending Hendrickson if you want to. I don't really understand if that's going to be the best move, but I actually might go Igbinosun here because he's somebody who's a top 32 player for me. He's number 31 on my board. He's under 22 years old, and he's ridiculously good. He's stopped the penalties by a very large margin. He's somebody who, again, 0 touchdowns scored on him, 6 forced incompletions. He's someone who could take over a game at corner, and it's very rare to find guys who are that locked down. Might be a little inconsistent, but the lockdown nature of the game is something that not many corners can possess, and he can. At 42 for the Texans, CeCe Mauigoa was the first selection. Here at 42, linebacker, underrated position to target. Again, just like Kyle Lewis is the guy who I'm probably thinking of next. Defensive interior, you guys know me. Amari Washington's great value here. And I will say Amari Washington might be what I go at 44 if I don't take him here. So we're going to go after the athletic nose out of Oregon, who also plays even over the tackle on certain reps. Like, I love that as well. So they've even used him at wide 9 for a couple reps. It's crazy, but great athlete, amazing bull rush. Probably will end up deciding to come back to school, but really good value nonetheless. Baltimore Ravens 43. They went Peter Woods in the first. Would be nice to go LT Overton at this point here in the second, but not the case. Interior offensive line, I don't really think there's the value here. I talked about it several times for several other teams earlier. Like, Austin, I think, is 100% going back to school. It's his first year starting at tackle. He's at Ohio State. He's doing a good job. Like, Caden Green is somebody who I think would be on the menu because he's a big player. He's 6'5", 330, but he's big. But he could end up working as a tackle / guard combo, which is what the Ravens like to do. They like to have those guys. Corner, they do like smaller corners, but I think someone like Pons in the third round would be a little bit more up their alley. I think Caden Green's very solid. I think people are giving Caden Green a bad rap. So we're going to go after Caden here at 43. 44 for the Falcons. This is their first pick of the mock. Defensive interior definitely is a position I still am willing to target. Darrell Jackson ended up having a tough week. You guys know me. I do love me some Lee Hunter. Lee's still a very good player, and he's a good nose as well. Maybe would end up waiting till round 3 for him, though. He is somebody that I do have with the asterisk, which means he is destined to fall with reevaluation. But let's look at wide receiver right now. And this is the prime opportunity. CJ Daniels, I reevaluated him today, and he just doesn't look like he has the explosiveness he did last year. Don't know what the hell happened. I know he's been banged up, but Jeremy Bernard would be my next best bet. And again, he literally played. I didn't even think about this. I do think about it every time I select him, but I didn't think about this until like right now. He ended up playing with Michael Penix before back in Washington. So you end up have a little bit of a reunion there as well. 45 for the Houston Texans. CC Mauigoa, Amari Washington out of Oregon. And now tight end's an underrated position to go after. I just feel like this is going to be a late day 2 type of tight end class, early day 3. Could go after more offensive line talent, but talked about it before. Not really a huge fan of the options. But when you look at this team, there's actually a lot of issues with depth. So I'm going to go after some depth here. And you can talk about LT Overton, but I think this is the proper opportunity to look at players like Cassius Howell and Quincy Rhodes. And I'm going to look at Quincy Rhodes here because he brings the size at 275. He's going to have close to 34-inch arms. Joshua Josephs is as well a very, very talented player that, well, you look at the edge rusher builds, they're about the 250-pound range. And Quincy's 275. It doesn't really fit. I would say Malachi is possible. He's in that 260 range, but he's also been at 250. And he does have 34-inch arms. 35 flat. I'm going to show some love to my guy here. We're going to go Malachi Lawrence, edge rusher out of UCF. Go and watch him yourself. You guys are going to fall in love. He's a great player. New York Jets, so far, Dante Moore, Chris Bell, Christian Miller. That's the way to rebound. I'm just going to put that out there. Again, Jamal McCoy considered returning in this. We're going to look at some more physical corners because there's a lot of them in this class. And you got Malik Muhammad, Julian Neal, and Chris Johnson. You got AJ Harrison here as well. But, I mean, Chris Johnson, very possible. Like, Julian Neal, going to be someone who's more of a third-round target. Like, it is kind of tough to go and say that we're going to go after a corner here. That's the problem. We still might. But, I mean, edge rusher's possible. Like Jermaine Johnson might not be there after this year. We do maybe need to go corner. A lot of people love AJ Harris. I'm just not on board with AJ Harris. I'm just not there. But you know what? We'll go after Chris Johnson. He's a physical player. 9 forced incompletions, 3 interceptions on the year. Playing worse competition, but still doing a damn good job. We're going to go Chris Johnson. He's, I believe, 6'1", 195, 6 foot 195. So good boundary corner to have there with Zaire Thomas. And then in the nickel, of course, why am I thinking? I keep wanting to say Roger McCreary because they're from the same team. Shoot, this is a guy who I love from Louisville too. I'm slipping up. It's already 9 p.m. But regardless, let's get through this. Number 47 for the Minnesota Vikings. First pick, Avion Terrell. Happy with that. At this point, you could talk about the center. I love Jennings Dunker, and so we already took him. I just don't think the value is going to be there. Running back, the value is not there. So I'm going to go back to the safety room. And You can talk about someone who's going to be a massive hitter, but I want to have somebody who's a little bit more rangy and someone who is still happy to come into the box. I'm going to go Zaki Wheatley, defensive back out of Penn State, and just, again, weaponize up. 48 for the Carolina Panthers, first pick, Clev Lubin. Zaki Wheatley would have been a great choice here. Linebacker is very much needed. I just don't see the value here. I would end up going and opting for safety at this point. I do know offensive line is a position you could try to target, but I'm going to go after Keon Saab here for the range he has. I have one issue with Keon Saab. His pursuit angles are very scary. He knows he knows who to go after, but his initial pursuit angle sometimes gets him out of position. But he has the athleticism usually to make up for it. But I do see that being an issue with him. Keep that in mind. But I do think he's been playing very, very well to the point where some people are going to consider him a second-round pick. At 49 for the Kansas City Chiefs, first pick, Jeremiah Love. Second pick, I do think they're going to want to continue developing their edge core, and they're going to go Quincy Rhodes Jr. all day. You want to get some quick wins. This is a Spags edge rusher, 275, quick, long arms, kind of just the dream for y'all. At number 50 for the Chicago Bears, first pick, Zion Young, who I think is a great player. I mean, I'm going to get crap for it. I get it, but I mean, that is a damn good player. For the Bears here at number 50, I do think a nose tackle at least could be on the board. And last time he went to Florida for a defensive interior in the second, it ended up working out. We're going to do it again with Caleb Banks, defensive interior out of Florida. The question is health, not talent. He has over 35-inch arms. He's a dangerous, dangerous player when healthy. And that's what you take at round number 2. 51 for the Jags. First pick of the draft, ended up getting Jacoby Myers today. So we're going to look at offensive line as well. Isaiah World's a very intriguing option. Austin Barber right down the street. I don't think Austin's played well enough this year to garner said draft capital. But tight end with Raritan, I've taken him before. It's a weird team to draft for. Defensive back wise, you could talk about AJ Halsey. Earl Little, I just feel is more of a match made in heaven in round 3. Edge doesn't feel like a position they're going to target very much. Defensive interior doesn't either. Like, you could talk about corner, but now it kind of feels like you guys are going to be trying to get more reps out of Travis Hunter at corner. That being said, I mean, there's just great value here with AJ Harris to where honestly, I'm going to go that route. We're going to go AJ Harris, cornerback out of Penn State, because I don't think you're going to have a full-time role for Travis at corner. If you do, I'm going to love it. But 52 for the Steelers, Denzel Boston, the pick in round number 1. Again, just wait for a quarterback in round 3, round 4, or just end up going with Will Howard, who ended up winning a championship last year and is a damn good player. Corner still is on the board for me. You look at Julian Neal and Malik Muhammad. I think that's a fantastic option for this team. Defensive interior is another one that's very, very underrated. If we did see Caleb Banks here, I would end up being very open to it. Like, again, there's good options like Brandon Cleveland. Shout out to him. Possible future friend of the show. But, I mean, personally, I think that you still could look at the QB route. Again, Lenoris returning in this. Mateer Levitt returning in this. Could talk about Sorsby, but just these QBs on day 2 just never really pan out unless you're just taking them in the 3rd round and you already have a fully constructed roster. But, I mean, when did we take Igbinosun? I keep forgetting when we took him because I'm like, I love him to death. Of course, we took him to the fucking Bengals. Unbelievable. Took him to my own, rival. We're going to go Malik Muhammad here. We're going to trust him. Again, 2 interceptions on the year. End up having a little bit of a struggle week, but I do like what he has done. He's getting heavier in weight and still being extremely talented. 53 for the Lions. Trevor Gooseby was the first pick. Excited about that. I'm going to go after someone who can end up being more of a tweener of interior and edge, and that's LT Overton. Also, Bama guys fit very well in this culture. 54 for the Chargers. They went Pregnon in round number 1. I'm going to go for a blocking tight end with upside as a receiver, and I don't think he's in here because I didn't see anybody else added to it. So we're going to use Hodge as the placeholder, but my number 48 player in the draft, Eli Raritan, tight end out of Notre Dame, is the selection there. Big fan of his game. At number 55 for the San Francisco 49ers, our first pick was Kenyon Sadiq. Here in round number 2, I'm going Isaiah World all day, every day. I think he needs to play left guard to start out, but he is a tackle at heart. He's 6'5 to 6'6". He has tackle length. It says he's 6'8". He's not. But He just needs to play guard in the short run until he learns the finer details of being a tackle. And this is perfect situation for him. And you go back to back Oregon players. 56 for the Green Bay Packers. This is their first pick of the draft. I do think corners should be at least open to them. With Julian Neal, he's a big physical corner and it worked very well up into the colder climates. So I like to give some respect where respect is due. He did get cooked recently, but again, that's why you're taking him here in round 2 and not in round 1. Julian Neal, cornerback out of Arkansas, going at 56. 57, Buffalo Bills, first pick, Sonny Styles, second pick here. Could talk about safety, but I do want to look at wide receiver and get a deep threat here with Chris Brazzell, the second. Like just complete deep threat that you can end up utilizing and, kind of be a 6'5" version of what Shaheed was supposed to be for your team. Speaking of Shaheed, you got the Seattle Seahawks here at 58, who got Caleb Lamu in the first. I talked about edge rusher, and guess what's here? A lot of edge rushers. Joshua Josephs makes a ton of sense. It's between him and R. Mason Thomas. Romello's too role specific. Cassius Howell just has the sub 31-inch arms. So, you have a lot of guys who are very, very similar in skill set. I think Joshua Josephs is worse among the bunch. So we're going to go after the player who has an inch plus extra of arm length on Cassius Howell with R. Mason Thomas. Similar skill set. Again, just has less of an issue with the red flag. 59, Los Angeles Rams, Mansour Delane, Caleb Tiernan, the selections there. At pick number 59, defensive line-wise, you guys are great. Linebacker-wise, you guys are sniping, so you guys are doing good. We're going to go wide receiver for this team. I think that's a good way to go about it. Antonio Williams definitely feels like a Los Angeles Ram. Very fluid, very talented player. Nick Harbor could be a crazy deep threat, but looking at the way your roster is constructed, I don't think you need to really go after like a Nick Harbor type right now. I think that going after just a balanced 3-down receiver, like Antonio Williams is still such a solid wide receiver. He could go back to school, but just a solid 3-down guy that's just been lost because he had an early season injury and the team's pretty slow. 60 for the Denver Broncos. First pick, Anthony Hill Jr. Antonio Williams probably would have been my selection for y'all. Instead, I might just go for an edge rusher, Cassius Howell at this point because his talent is through the roof. He fits very well. Like, it does kind of feel like you got to pull the trigger on that. But instead, we're going to go after Eli Raridan. Actually, we already did that. Lamau. We ended up sending him to the LA Chargers. But instead, we're going to go after Lyndon Cooper, center out of Pittsburgh, my number 19 player on my board. We'll let Logan Jones get the fun heyday right there as the placeholder. Number 61 for the Buccaneers went Mateo Uiagalelei in the first round. Honestly, with Cassius Howell here, I feel kind of bad with kind of passing on that, but it is what it is. Joshua Josephs here as well. We still got to be able to pivot, be able to bite the bullet and see what happens. Interior offensive line could end up being the move here with someone like Bazontis. Not going to do that, but worth looking at. I'm going to go after linebacker here, and Jake Golday had a pretty tough time this past week. Austin Romaine in there. I'm going to go after Kyle Lewis, linebacker out of Pittsburgh, who ended up having himself a ridiculously fantastic week. This is just a dude, even though he's 6'1", 220 pounds, he plays like he's 240, and he moves like he's 220, and he's flexible enough to be able to play in the slot, able to play on the line of scrimmage, able to play even as a second-level defender. So, going to sound a coach that I believe in. Number 62 for the New England Patriots, Dylan Thieneman was the first round selection. We're going to go the edge rusher here, and we're going to take a shot on Cassius Howell, edge rusher out of Texas A&M, and see if the arm length is really that big of an issue. 63 for the Philadelphia Eagles. First pick was Caden Proctor. Second pick, could talk about corner here, but again, Jermah McCoy considered returning. I've kind of siphoned off all the top corners that I feel comfortable with to the Eagles. Edge rusher going to be also the next best position. I love the way Joshua Josephs can fit into this defense. I think you need to go one defensive position, one offensive position based on the composition of how this draft is also built. And number 64, last but not least, we have the Indianapolis Colts who used their first round pick for Sauce Gardner. That's just crazy. We're going to go after edge rusher here, and we're going to select Denai Dennis Sutton. I think it's just a high floor player that you don't have to worry too much about. Not really the most talented player on planet Earth, but that's why you're getting him here at the end of the second. He's just been consistently really solid, and that's what you should be looking for. So that's going to be the video. Thank you again for watching and then joining me through this whole journey. Today was such an exciting one, and we're going to continue on with the trades mock draft probably later this week. Thank you again for watching, showing the love you always do. I'll see you later. Peace.